Is Michael Jordan's presence here significant to you? And was the touchdown celebration a tribute to him?
Yeah. You have a special guest, special friend in attendance. There's only one thing you can do, and that's to win. So, got a lot of love for him. Yeah.
Let me talk my shit again.
What it do? This is the Talk My Shit Again podcast. I'm your humbly hostile host, Cassius Cliff, recapping the 24-20 victory against the Dallas Cowboys at the link on banner dropping night. I know what I said going into that game. I fully expected a blowout, very comfortable win. But I did mention, if you did not remember, there was no way, shape, or form that the Dallas Cowboys were coming into Philly and leaving out of there with a victory. Jalen Carter, no Jalen Carter. Rain delay or no rain delay. There was no way they were coming in Philly and leaving with a W. I stand here correcting that, and I'm going to move forward with that because we saw how this game started. Weird as hell and really baffling. You have your best defensive player jawing at their quarterback, and before you know it, the flag is up in the air, and he's being ejected. Now, I'm here to say it, I'm going to make it clear. It doesn't matter if you're kin, your sibling, your significant other. I will never support you. I will never condone you spitting on another adult. That shit is wild as hell, wild disrespectful, and I simply can't support that. Now, if I were to sit here and say that Dak Prescott, they not only did not antagonize Jalen Carter by spitting in his direction and locking eyes with him and then smiling, and then when Jalen Carter went to go check him and ask him, did you spit in my direction? Did you spit at me? And he says something slick that clearly provokes and taunts him to spit at him. I'm going to say it clear if it was not made clear already. Not only is he not respected and supported by his own teammates, and I'm talking about Dak Prescott, he's not respected by other players around the league. Because if you're respected by other players in the league, they're not going to spit on you, antagonized or not. And we understand that every team has a terrorist like an Adoree Jackson, and every team wants to have a crash out like in Jalen Carter. But if you're going to crash out, you gotta do it like Marshawn Lattimore. This is a guy that is confirmed, bona fide crash out. It is documented for several years, not only in Washington, but as well as New Orleans. But the way he likes to crash out is within the confines of the game. This is not how you tackle somebody. You don't pull a Zangief or a King from Tekken. You don't suplex people in football. That's how you get flagged. But I've never seen anyone ejected for that. And that is the difference. If you're going to crash, do it within the confines of the game. Don't get yourself kicked out before you even play a snap. Now, that putting Spitgate to bed and to rest, it's already been put out there. If it's not been known, if you're not aware, Jalen Carter has been suspended and been fined for a full game check. But given that he was suspended for after a game in which he played 0 snaps, they considered it time served, which a lot of people, especially Chiefs fans, these people are like, they are so upset about that. Because they know that when it comes to the Chiefs, the refs and the league tends to give them some love. And finally, when something makes sense in terms of a player's never been suspended for spitting on someone, but he got suspended, he got ejected before the game even started, they considered the time served. Chiefs fans have an issue with that. But with that being said, Jalen Carter will be suiting up against the Chiefs this Sunday at 4:25 for America's Game of the Week, but he will be playing for free because he got fined a whole game check. So I feel like the damage is done, and we can move on. Now moving on to the game that actually happened and what actually took place. When you look at the defense and what happened in terms of how they were looking early on in this game, I think Jalen Carter getting ejected absolutely sucked the life out of the defense and the defense took a huge hit. That's your best defensive player not being able to play one single snap in the entire game. The Dallas Cowboys were humming early and often, but a guy that a lot of people expect a lot more out of and actually showed up early and often, if not often enough, Jordan Davis. I mean, we got to tip our hat to a guy like that. Here he is having his best game as a pro, especially given the fact that you're not playing against your old college teammate and Kerr's teammate and Jalen Carter and having your best showing as a pro for the Philadelphia Eagles, I think was huge for this defense. Because without him stepping up and making 6 tackles, having a tackle for loss and a pass deflection, a near sack on Dak Prescott, who knows how this game pans out. Obviously, it's not just, this victory was not hinged on one man, and the defense doing what it did was not solely off the backs of Jordan Davis. But I would be lying, and I would really be remiss if I didn't mention the kind of game that he had and really showing him some love, because this is a guy that, again, we expect a lot out of when we drafted him in the first round over a guy like Kyle Hamilton, who, by all accounts and really by all the data, is a far superior player than Jordan Davis. But Jordan Davis stepping up, again, when Jalen Carter was not there, is huge, not only for him, but really for this defense, knowing that we can count on this guy when we absolutely need it. But I think where this defense is at its best, and really the best unit on this defense, it's in the linebacker corps. Having a guy like Zach Bond, a former first-team All-Pro, absolutely hawking down our resident and, well, former resident, but our still double agent in Miles Sanders. I mean, Miles Sanders is who he is. This is a guy that loves to bounce it outside, has poor vision, and typically is supposed to be a home run hitter. Now, if you remember as an Eagles fan, him having a run like this and absolutely fumbling the ball against the Ravens, where J.J. Arcega-Whiteside actually recovered it for a touchdown in the end zone. This is what Miles Sanders is. But him getting hawked down by a guy, a linebacker that runs probably a 4.6 or 4.7, is absolutely insane. And that's why I call him a double agent, because how in the hell do you have daylight and you don't hit it? You don't get in the end zone. And what does this play result in? Well, actually before that, because I mentioned Zach Bond and what he did, but the linebacker core being the best unit on this team has a lot to do with Jihad Campbell. His ability to be able to cover down the field like Zach Bond. I mean, this is covering a seam route. But then moving forward on that same drive in which Zach Bond stopped that long run and then forcing the fumble on Miles Sanders, that's why I consider him a double agent. And that's why I don't miss Miles Sanders at all. I had no fears of him having any kind of real impact against us in this game as well. We know what our defense is, and ultimately, we know Miles is going to give us a play like this eventually. But Jihad Campbell, 3 tackles, a forced fumble, and a pass deflection. And I think when it came to this game, because obviously the way you see the score right now is how this game ended, 24-20. This drive, because the momentum shifted right here. And right after that, this is when we had that rain delay, that weather delay, which absolutely sucked all the took away all the momentum from this team. And obviously we saw how the game ended. But our linebackers helped seal this victory with this game-changing drive. I mean, because they were moving. Zach Bond hawks down Miles Sanders, and then Miles Sanders proceeds to fumble the ball a couple plays later. And that's how that game ended for us in terms of being able to stop their offense. But moving on to the offensive side of the ball, because we don't win without the offense doing what it was supposed to do. We got to start with Saquon Barkley first and foremost. Saquon Barkley obviously did not have his best game as an Eagle, and really by his standards, a pretty, I would say, mediocre, if not mid-game. 83 yards from scrimmage, 60 yards rushing on 18 carries for under 4 yards per carry. I mean, obviously, Saquon's going to do what he do. He's going to make guys eat grass, easy, simple, stiff arm, and also being able to score a touchdown. Obviously, that carries some weight. That definitely bodes well for the offense. But I think this game should be a learning lesson for a guy like Kevin Patullo, who in the beginning of the game, the offense was efficient, but they've been able to get your guys in favorable positions like a Saquon Barkley, like an A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, will bode well for the season. And really, that's what we need for our offense. Because when it came to what his offense looked like, it was on the back, the arms, and the leg of Jalen Hurts. Both of his touchdowns were not tush pushes against what a lot of haters would expect. You got a 4-yard run and a 8-yard run, a 6-yard rather. Both of his touchdowns were for several yards, were broken down plays that were pass plays, and him making something happen. You saw that big first down pickup, which led to that touchdown eventually. But Jalen Hurts, being the quarterback that he is, being a Super Bowl MVP, is going to do whatever it takes and whatever is necessary to ensure that his team is in the best position to win and win. And when it came to I mean, because this is a guy that led the team in rushing yards, had the most rushing touchdowns, having 152 yards in the air, 19 for 23, which I believe is 83% completion percentage, 94 QBR and a 94 passer rating, being able to drop the ball in the bucket to a Jahan Dotson, who I think is going to still be able to make his impact felt, but also having a guy like A.J. Brown, who A.J. Brown didn't have a target until the fourth quarter, under 2 minutes, which is insane. Obviously, that speaks to the coverage that Matt Eberflus, the defensive coordinator for the Cowboys, was putting out there and really dictating what Jalen Hurts did and really what he does. He's going to protect the ball. He's going to find an open man. And he's going to make something happen if nothing is there. But A.J. Brown, got to tip your hat off to a guy like that who obviously deserves the ball, wants the ball. He was highly effective when he gets it. Even though he did not necessarily look like himself, him being a viable option in the run game in terms of blocking, but then also making a pivotal catch for 8 yards, which led to a Jalen Hurts Jalen Hurts keeper for a first down, which put this game away. You got to be locked in to be able to make a play like this late in the game where you did not get a single target all game. So yes, he did not have the numbers by any stretch, but that was a big catch when we absolutely needed it, because you saw that was 2nd and 11. We don't get that first down, who knows how the game goes? But that's what it takes, and that's what great teams do. You show up when you need to show up. When you have a guy like Michael Jordan in the building, and you got a guy like Jalen Hurts who invited him, who obviously they're well acquainted. You got to show up when the greats are there. Really, you got to show up when you're going against divisional opponents, great team or not. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Great teams figure out ways to win. Best player on defense ejected, hour weather delay. It doesn't matter. The great teams, the best teams figure out a way to win despite the unforeseen factors and really the unforeseen scenarios that present themselves throughout the entirety of the game. Unlike the Baltimore Ravens, who were up 40-24, they could not close out that game. And that seems to be who the Ravens are, under at least Jim Harbaugh, led by Lamar Jackson. That seems to be who they are. And you know what? This is not to kick them while they're down, because I got no bones to pick with them. But I'm sure their players as well as their fans would much rather a close win versus being up by 16 points, 2 scores, and then losing by a single point. I'm sure they would want it the other way around. But again, we're talking about our team here. And when you got a defense that could pitch a second half shutout, allowing 0 points, when they started off by allowing that offense to do virtually anything they wanted, you got to be happy about that. You got to look at how that bodes well for the season and really for that defense, despite all the players that we're missing, like people like to mention. They like to mention all the guys that are no longer this team, but yet and still, we're able to hold that team to 20 points in a second half shutout. And a guy that has to be mentioned and given his flowers, Jake Elliott. I mean, we know what he had, the kind of season he had last year. We know how he ended the season. And ultimately, despite them changing these footballs to where I guess we saw several kicks over 55 yards, him being able to sink that 58-yarder, putting us 24-20, and essentially having to make the Dallas Cowboys score a touchdown to have a chance in this game was huge for us. And you got to tip your hat off to a guy like that who's had struggles in the past and come in and play a flawless game. Shouts out to you, Jake Elliott, and ultimately shout out to the Philadelphia Eagles for proving me right and making us 1-0 after banner night. This is the Talk My Shit Again podcast. I'm your humbly hostile host, Cassius Cliff. I'll be seeing y'all very soon. We out. Peace.